Hi everyone, welcome back. I've got another book review for you here, and this time it's written by Mears, and it's called the Outdoor Survival Handbook. Now, I've got a confession to make. This is the first and only book of Mears that I own. I've never purchased any of his other books. I might give them a go following this one. On the back we've got a price of $12.99. Hope you can see that all right. Yep, $12.99. But I think I picked this one up for, I think it was about £8 off Amazon with free shipping. Really quite impressed with this book actually. I think this is a fairly early one that was written a good few years ago. And there's a couple of things specifically that I like about this book, and I'll go through them as we touch on the contents. I've always been a bit of a fan of Mears. I've never got around to buying the books because the TV series have always been available on things like Sky or Freeview, that sort of thing. And I've always kind of, because I've looked at the TV series that he's done, I've always moved away from getting the books as well. I've always kind of felt, well, you know, maybe there was a little bit of repetition in there. So that's the reason why. But I went for this one. I've done a fair amount of reading recently and got through some other books, so I needed something else. Let's take you through the contents of it first of all. It starts off with Ray giving us a fairly lengthy introduction. In fact, this introduction could be an entire chapter in itself. It's not the usual introduction of just a page or a couple of pages. It goes on to about 6, 7 or 8 pages. But really it sets the scene for what is, I think, quite an emotive book. It takes a different stance to bushcraft or survival books that I've read in the past, where it seems that they're almost instructional manuals. They kind of go through different elements like fire, water, shelter, protection from the elements, so on and so forth, in a very distinct order, and it almost gives you a list of things that you've got to do in order to get out there in the woods. You get what I mean by that? Whereas this book takes an entirely different stance in my opinion. It starts off with some very basic stuff around clothing, personal kits. I'll just show you some of this, and it's got some good drawings in here as well. It kind of takes you on a journey with this little man who appears prevalent throughout the book. And I don't know whether this is supposed to be a likeness of Ray in his younger years or what, but this fella comes with us all the way through. And a lot of the things that it teaches you, you'll see this little man doing, like sawing a log in half and how to do that correctly, and putting up shelters, rather than just diagrams of the shelters. This little fellow's in there actually getting his hands on the materials used as well, which is kind of quite nice as well, because that almost sets a scene that you're following this person on a journey. And that's really how I would describe this book. It seems to be a summary of a journey that somebody might go throughout the year, and that's how Ray has put this through in the sort of 4 sections, if you like, that he takes us through. So on top of the basic bits around base camp kit, cutting tools, there is a nice section around navigation, which it's good to see that a level of importance has been put on this, and it teaches you how to use an ordnance survey map, looking at contours on the map, using a compass correctly, amongst other things, natural indicators, those sorts of things, which is a fundamental skill that really needs to be learnt before you start wandering around in the wilderness on your own. Then it takes us through these 4 main sections, which are put down as the seasons. It takes you through the seasons. Spring, starting off in spring, which Ray says is pretty much the ideal time to get out there. It's not too warm, not too cold, there's abundance of natural resources. There's a lot of change that you can see happening in the world. Throughout all of these 4 sections there are some common themes, like fire, for example, is touched on through all of them. And there are different ways of creating fire that Ray touches on. And I like the way that instead of just going, you can do it by metal match, by fire striker, by friction, by this, by that, it takes each method through the seasons and explains why they would most likely be applicable. Things like shelter as well, and explaining in an emotional sort of way that you can look at something like a tent in the colder months and the reasons why, but then in the summer months why you might look at hammock and tarp and the enjoyment particularly that you can get from those different types of shelter. So there's a couple of those things that go through, but then also for each season there are a few things that are specific to those seasons. And just as examples, you know, there's cordage in spring here, using and preparing bark for cordage, plaiting cordage. Then in summer it goes on to things like basketry. Then into autumn you've got things like nettle cordage, you know, those sorts of things. That then follows through the seasons in different ways. So it gives you almost different projects, fireside projects if you like, that you can complete when the stars come out and you've still got a few hours before bedtime. And then going into the final chapters, it's simply giving you a few useful addresses. Again, a couple of key points on learning how to sharpen a knife, how to do that correctly, and also coppicing of wood. So all in all, it's a really good book. I think this would be really suitable for somebody that's just getting used to going out, or is, you know, fairly young and maybe is badgering mum and dad. Can we go camping? Can we go camping? Can we get into bushcraft? Look at Mears on the telly. You know, I want to do what he does. This would be a really good book for somebody, you know, maybe between the ages of 5 and, I don't know, maybe 12, you know, to read for themselves and start using their imagination as to what they can expect when they go outdoors. Because I think a lot of the problems where youngsters might go out there, pick up a few skills, is that they don't know and understand what to expect from the environment a lot of the time. And I think this book takes you on an emotional journey to experience all of those things without any fear of them. So highly recommended, around about £8 I think from Amazon. I'll definitely pick up one of Ray Mears' books in the future and have a read, and I'll do another review on that. Hope you found it useful. And as always with these book reviews, if you decide to go out and buy it, and please give me some feedback, let me know what you think. If it was any good for you, brilliant. If it's not a problem. That's the way it goes. We're all at different skill levels. So there you go. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate all your support, and I'll see you in the next video.